as part of the mandate of NBC in ensuring they are up to date in regulating the broadcast industry. The body once again organized a stakeholder get-together in Lagos on 9th of August 2023. The interaction, which spanned through different zones of the federation, was necessary to bring all together on the best way to move the industry forward. The welcome address by Dr. Onoja.
We are happy that there's a good representation from different states. We welcome you from Enugu to Umuahia to Ebonyi, from Uyo to Calabar, from Ogun State to our host state, Lagos. I congratulate the new GM of LTV who is here with us. Madam, congratulations. We'd like to welcome you from Imo State. Our friend, Tos FM is here. Mr. Tajuddin. A lot of us who are here, I'd like to welcome you to this forum.
The DGNBC used the opportunity to remind the practitioners on the need to pay their license fee and the implication of operating without a license.
Let's discuss what is the problem with the industry. You may recall that the National Broadcasting Commission has repeatedly engaged stakeholders on the need to stay up to date with payments and renewals of license fees and statutory levies. Available records show prevalent and continued default from many licenses. This is a contravention of the terms and conditions of your license and provisions of the Act of the NBC. The Commission, therefore, has called this meeting to implore such licensees to liquidate these debts immediately. You may wish to recall that the Commission has graciously granted discounts to enable stations to meet up to this statutory requirement in the past, even more so to allow newly licensed stations to find their footing in the industry. It's not the intention of the Commission to strangulate the new stations or the existing ones. That is why the Secretary of the Commission said the Commission has human face and will continue to show this human face to our brothers and sisters. Considering the non-responsiveness of some license, it has become imperative to invite you here in Lagos to remind you of these statutory obligations to the commissions and to the Act of the NBC. Consequently, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I wish to notify you the following. Licensees indeed are indebted to the Commission, have up till September 9 to redeem their debt. Failure to do that automatically means that license is revoked. You don't have that license. From the day the provisional offer was collected from the Commission, from that day we start to count 1, 2, and within 2 years, that license must be put into use. If you cannot put the license into use, you are free to come back to the Commission again and say, have your license, please give it to somebody or any person who is interested, who has the ability to handle it. Furthermore, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Section 14, subsection 2A of the NBC Act requires that a percentage of fees and levies be charged by the Commission on the annual income of licensed broadcasting station. And Section 210A of the Nigerian Broadcasting Code explicitly states that the broadcaster shall remit to the Commission 2.5% of the annual income. A broadcast station that has not paid its license fee is not permitted by law to be on air. Such a station is an illegal station. It may be appropriate to put you on notice here that the Commission does not receive any budgetary allocation from the government, and our operation is dependent on remittance from the industry.
Responding, some of the practitioners, the BON representative, and commissioners of information advocated for the support from the regulating body in smooth running of their business.
Many stations will not know what bond is passing through. At a time, I have become a persona non grata at the level of NBC. Seeing me, NBC always believe that bond is always out to fight for a member station to prevent them from closing down station. Yes, it is part of our responsibility to do, but if it is a contractual agreement, bond cannot work against that. If it is about imposing sanctions, where bond feels that imposition of sanction is not merited, you know that bond will never keep quiet, and at that level we can disagree with NBC to any level. But on this issue of payment, for them to sustain their own functions, I want to appeal to station to please come up with NBC with plans that can be executed almost immediately, so that they can begin to defray this money that we are talking about.
I was able to, there are 3 takeaways from the address. First, the indebtedness of license fees, and the fact that if by the 9th of September, these fees are not, the debtors have not made good their payments, that their licenses will be revoked. Secondly is the issue of a 2.5% commission that goes to the Broadcast Commission. And of course, the third one is the support of state governments to their broadcast stations. That's an area I want to dwell a bit on. Speaking specifically for my state, we've just been there for barely 3 months. And I want to say that we're already carrying out some reforms in the information space in Abia State, specifically in our broadcast stations. Some of us are, I don't know how many of us are very vast or knowledgeable about convergence communication. What we are doing in Abia State is to bring together all the operators in the information space under one umbrella. And while you're doing that, what it means is that the state government wants to pay particular attention to all the operators in the information space. I want to thank the Commission once more for organizing this stakeholders meeting, and to encourage them to go ahead in the future to get people together, operators together, to discuss and find solutions to issues of common interest.
I want to appreciate NBC again for putting this together, because it will be an avenue for people to judge us. I know the issue we've been having with license fee. I've been in the system for over 30 years. I was with the Osun State Broadcasting Corporation before becoming the permanent secretary. I'm glad when I listened to people when they were introducing themselves. I'm glad to be among eggheads in the industry. I'm glad and was very happy when I was hearing various sonorous and baritone voices that we call microphonic voices here. And I'm very sure that after today's meeting, we are going to have a very fruitful one and come out with very good things on the issue of license fee.
We are talking about broadcasting service. And our broadcasting service, Anambra State Broadcasting Service, ABS, happens to be one of the very first place that experienced his imprimatur. We are talking about license dues and whatever. He immediately cleared it because there was a backlog from the previous administration. And since he appreciates the essence of broadcasting and information dissemination, he immediately cleared it. We know the kind of problems that we are wading through it's not been easy. If it is not easy for a government broadcasting station, I can imagine what the private stations are going through. So what I expected really was for us now to be looking at solutions, like my governor will say, solutions. You know, if you guys are not paying as at when due, what are the problems? I can tell you inflation is one of them. And you know, when there is inflation, the first sector that gets the hit is the kind of business we do.
I think that the core mandate of NBC, which is to regulate the broadcast industry, I want to look at it from two different angles. One is that if you look at the media space in Nigeria, you find that the print media is highly threatened by the social media. In fact, if we don't take time, we might get to a point where people might not be bothered to read newspapers again because they get everything online. So the only mass communication strand of the industry that is standing firm today, I don't know about tomorrow, is the broadcast, the electronic. And so it becomes very important that NBC will do more than just talking about fees and licenses and look into the real regulation. I think one of the greatest threats of the industry is the gradual creeping in of quacks into the broadcast industry. Because it is the only standing aspect of the industry that is firm today, you find that a lot of people handle the microphone in radio stations without going through any form of training. And this is a very big threat to the industry. So it is not just collecting fees, but I know you have rules that those who will present matters in radio stations and television must be trained. But I don't think it's enforced enough. So I think you should have stricter measures to ensure that only those who are qualified by minimum level of training are allowed to work in radio stations. And the proprietors of these stations who violate these rules should be sanctioned heavily, because what happens or comes out of a radio station is enough to take this country into a civil war.
Well, my contribution particularly on responsibilities that NBC need to do, and that is on issue of legislative intervention. You made mention of the challenges of radio stations to meet up with their fees, 2.5%. But I want to tell you, sir, that that challenge is not, the state-owned television is not immune to that problem. In some states, because they have a responsibility to take announcements, take marketing commercials from the state government without making any payments. And it reduces the level of funds that will be available to them. Most importantly, some states don't even give subvention to the radio stations. They find it difficult to have funds to maintain their equipment. Talk more of having excess to shoulder some responsibilities outside their own internal arrangements. So, sir, I am appealing for an intervention from the legislative side where state-owned televisions will be required, where the state government will be required to, in form of legislation, that every commercials for the state government should be paid from all agencies of the government, so that they will have adequate inflow of cash from commercials.
We are not asking the stations to make payment in bulk where and when they cannot do it. If the amount owed is 10 million, come to the commission, sit down with us, and tell us your payment plan is acceptable. If you can pay 1 million monthly, 500,000, it all depends on what you think you can be able to do. That is the human face of the commission. So please come bring your payment plan and let's see how we can help you to work it out, to work on it. For all those that want to join the profession to be trained there, and it's going to be part of our conditions before we give you license. We want to see the number of your staff, how many staff are you going to employ, and what their educational qualification, and they must go to the institute for a basic training so that they can be assimilated into the system. What we are having now is people just from their universities without even the requisite qualification jump into the profession. Journalism is just like medicine. If you don't handle it very well, you can kill the society. If you have a quack doctor who gives a wrong prescription, people are likely to die. And if you hand over the microphone to somebody who doesn't know anything about the profession, that person can set the country ablaze.
To gather the views and questions of the broadcasters present, there was a general interactive section which gave more insights on some of the issues bothering the broadcasters.
The solution is already on ground. And that solution is Society of Nigerian Broadcasters. As at the moment, there are over 1,000 members that are fully registered. And very soon, people will begin to see state stations being inaugurated. And before you can practice as a broadcaster, you may have to, or you will have to, write an exam. And by so doing, sanity will be brought into the industry.
I want to suggest that NBC scales, this up. In a situation where you have the Nigeria Governors Forum, go and speak to them. Go and tell the governors. Share with them your problems at NBC. When you speak to them, and then I think they'll begin to appreciate the problems that we're having, and not the commissioner who was appointed. That there's a way he will speak, he's removed the next moment, another person is appointed.
Those who are unable to pay their fees, their license fees or license renewals fees, should return the licenses, or they will be reported to appropriate quarters. There are more than 500 applicants, maybe 500 or 5,000? 500 in the waiting. As my first question, will NBC be viable just by issuing licenses? NBC cannot be viable just by issuing licenses. Then we should start talking about solutions. And there are solutions. Then license fees remains the same for over 30 years. I'm happy that it has remained the same, because from what I've heard, we are talking in dollars now. And $1 goes for about almost almost 1,000 naira. And when you are talking about raising money to import parts or equipment for radio or television, I wonder how many can afford to do that replacement. And that takes me to the 2.5% that NBC requires from private radio and television. Is that 2.5% of loss or 2.5% of profit?
Where do we draw the threshold? Can NBC actually give us a list of do's or don'ts of the kind of lyrics that don't get into the songs? And 2, out of every 10 songs our Gen Zs and our latest artists out now, 8 of them, yes, are very, very bold and lewd.
My advocacy is, how do we entrench the traditional media? How do we ensure the traditional media does not die? And that is what I think this forum is all about, so that all the stakeholders here and our regulators If we have to, do a similar thing like this to entrench and promote our traditional media, then we are good to tell the Nigerian story and indeed the African story.
The NBC Broadcasting Institute at Abuja, I'm thinking you should extend it. It should not just be for, staff. I think the CEOs who are intending to own stations should also be schooled. They should be taught, because they don't know anything about the media outfit. The next thing you hear is, I'm sacking you today, I'm sacking you tomorrow. Why is it that we don't have, why are we making just 1 million or 2 million or 3 million a month? Why? It's so challenging, because they don't understand what is VAT on advert. Lagos adverts, they see VAT and they tell you, what is VAT? Please get that off. No. What is percentage? Get it off. I want my money straight, just the way it should be. So I'm thinking that CEOs who are intending to own stations, new CEOs, should be trained.
The first appeal, sir, is that the commission should please give a room of about 3 months for people to gather as much as they could and then remit to the commission.
A lot of the problems that I believe you're trying to solve can be solved. But there's a wave that has come. There's a change that has come. And the solution is to change with the changing times. I think representation of younger broadcasters should be considered at various levels, who can bring ideas and solutions that I believe will move the organization forward. A general is only as good as his soldiers, and we will make you look good if you put us in the right position and at the right place.
I have a friend who is a blogger, a very popular person. He makes 2.9 million naira every day simply by posting on his wall. He gets about 100,000 views. Now, most of these people know the secrets. Most people do not listen to radio. So all of these brands, they know the secrets. Everything is on social media. Influencers have taken over the job. As I speak to you, in the next 5 years from my research, podcasts will be taking over radio stations. And nobody will be interested in listening to your radio station. The only way you can follow the trend if you join hands, young minds who will give ideas of how to make money and pay back to the commission.
I think the number of stakeholder meetings we have had in the past, one way in which we can make significant progress and improvement is when we have conferences like this, fora like this, we are able to give feedback. The NBC is able to review that feedback before taking decisions.
NBC is a big body. I would have thought that this kind of stakeholders meeting, your events and whatever, are sponsored by company. You can do that. And then what do you give in return? Very simple. How much have they spent? Let's say 15 million to sponsor this event in Maiduguri. All expense paid. Hotels, transportation for all of us coming. Now, you give them in return airtime for their jingles, for their promos. In return, you are not spending a dime.
What I heard is that we are just supposed to go ahead and pay. So I just wanted to clarify, does that mean that all those representations that were made on that occasion have been considered and were considered unworthy or unnecessary, and therefore the commission is going ahead to insist that this 2.5% of income must be paid?
Let's look at the NBC Act. What set up the NBC? Most times, what most broadcasters talk about is more of fine. But the strongest part of the Act is talking about helping the industry to grow and thrive. Go and look at it. There are 4 key areas there that are talking about building the industry. And that is where we must focus on.
I think the NBC should issue license to professionals, not politicians. Most of the people you issue license to, they are money bags. And they want to recoup their money within 1 year, within 6 months. And if you are not making that money, you are not working. Please, I want NBC to look at this.
There was a brief remarks by some of the jury to answer the question of the broadcasters.
Bond sent out a letter requesting from stations the advertising agencies that have been owing them maybe for 3 years, 2 years. Only 4 stations responded, and we treated those 4 stations and they recovered their debt. Again, this year, we held another meeting with the Advertisers Association. They promised to help us. We wrote a letter to all stations to send to us the list of advertising agencies owing them in a tabular form. I think stations, they are here, they can bear us witness. Up till now, we have not even received a single reply. Then how do you think we can work together? Many of the CEOs that are here, many of the stations that are here today, they are not even part of Bond. How do we form a formidable pressure group to liberate the industry?
The issue of 2.5% was a decision during the last code review. In fact, it has always been in the code. Brother Akeredolu Ale, it has always been in the code. Sometime in the past, a couple of years back, there was a complaint like this from the industry. And the DG then, Dr. Silas Issa, decided to listen and reviewed it to 1.5%. It was that period, 1.5%. What is in the code and what has always been in the code has been 2.5%. And because that period, I can't remember what the economic situation was, there was a clamor from the industry. And NBC considered to allowing people pay 1.5%. That happened then. But what is in the code is 2.5%, and it is statutory because it's in the Act. Act is a law of the Federation. And I don't, when industry players, when owners of organization refuse to pay what is statutorily required of them to the NBC, but they come and they are able to pay for they are able to pay tax, they are able to buy fuel, they are able to do every other thing. The only thing that we are never able to do is pay license fee to the NBC. I think we should begin to reconsider because that's the basics of the job that we do.
The vote of thanks, which was said by Mr. Raphael Akpan, followed by the closing prayer by Dr. Anyete Ekpe.
You will agree with me that it has been a family meeting, as we all have said. You will also note that our observations, our issues raised, suggestions are quite noted by the Commission. And I'm very sure that the Commission will get back to you. We are indeed glad that you can make it, despite the short notice, and of course your tight schedule for coming. We are saying thank you.
Father, we thank you for the conduct of this meeting. We thank you for letting your presence guide discussions. We thank you because everything that shall come hereafter shall be to the glory of your name.
What can you say about this stakeholders meeting?
I think for me, it's a very wonderful meeting we've had here today, and we'll step it up from here to address some other issues, in the industry that are affecting our business.
The thing is that it's something that we should actually put into the works because this is a new age. It is not like we are living in the Stone Age or the prehistoric age. If you have what they call TALENT, talent, you can use it. You cannot tell an OAP not to be able to do a voiceover for the OAP to be able to get paid apart from the salary, which actually improves the OAP's welfare.
Broadcast license fee is a statutory requirement because if you don't pay, you are operating illegally. So what statutorily gives you the power to do broadcasting in Nigeria? It's your license, and you must pay for your license. So if you don't pay for your license, then you're doing the wrong thing. So that's why NBC is here.